You can create unbelievable value through community. It's also unbelievably difficult to create community as well. I think offline community is very clear. We know what offline communities are, right? The tennis club, the B2B marketing meetup club, the swingers club. Okay, maybe not the swingers club, but digital's a little bit more blurry, right? Like, I think if we look at, for example, WhatsApp, right? I think WhatsApp's a great way of learning about how to manage communities. I know it might be groups of friends and everybody has their own Facebook groups or WhatsApp groups. I have a whole bunch of WhatsApp groups myself. I have my friends group, which is just basically us talking about events and happy birthdays. And then we have the boys group where we specifically talk about how amazing our wives are. And then we have our family group chat, which is purely just misinformation. And why am I bringing this up? Even with WhatsApp groups, it's difficult to manage. And here's the whole thing. Everyone throws around community like they have it. I hear B2B brands tell me that they have a community when really they just have attention. They have a newsletter, they have a podcast, they have an Instagram. And 93% of the time, they're just shouting at their end customers. A community is when 93% of the time, you're shutting up, you're listening, and everyone else is sort of creating the content, and you're just there nurturing and creating that energy for your community. Not to say, by the way, that you can't use these social platforms to build a community. I think one of the best examples from a B2C standpoint is what Shein has done. If you don't know what Shein is, it's fundamentally disrupted fast fashion. It's been unbelievable how fast they've grown, especially during the pandemic. And what's been remarkable about Shein is that on TikTok, for example, there are predominantly women. They will buy Shein clothing and they'll have Shein hauls. I'm sure, Sarah, you're familiar with this, right? Shein hauls?
Yes.
It's like they've taken over TikTok.
It truly is oftentimes a lot of my For You page, Shein or Amazon or whatever the fast fashion flavor of the day is, the hauls.
I think what's remarkable about this, Sarah, is that Shein literally take the creative and they turn it into ads. They don't even need to do any work. They just take everyone's creative, turn them into ads. If you go to the website, it's just people posting their videos of their clothing. I mean, it's remarkable what they've done and been able to sort of fuel their community in this way. And so I think, thinking about it from a B2B standpoint, where do we start? Well, I think obviously from a digital standpoint, there are amazing platforms like Slack and subreddit and Discord and Facebook groups. But ultimately, I think we need to think about community as the anti-social media. Social media was all about scale, mass scale. How do we get more followers? Community is more about deep, insanely deep and intimate relationships. And I would say the starter kit of how to do this is to start with an insanely small group. Could be like 10 people and just provide extraordinary value to those 10 people. I think communities don't need managers. I think ultimately communities need leaders. They need a leader within the organization that will vouch for them and also have the clout and the leverage to get their messages heard. And I think ultimately participation is key, because once somebody sees that a group chat is dead, like no one's gonna go back into it. You can't revive a dead community. So you need to continue that participation. It's one of the toughest things to do in the world, but once you get it right, it can be an unbelievable moat. And I think one of the types of companies that are doing this really well, I think we can look at it from in the blockchain space or the crypto space. Mitch a couple of hours ago talked about NFTs. He explained the whole idea of NFTs. Hopefully you joined that. It was an amazing session. And I think what they've done in the NFT space is really create unbelievable communities. There are projects like the Bored Ape Yacht Club where you can get like 10,000 uniquely designed apes. And people are like spending hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars for these pictures of apes. Why? It's because they're part of a community. It gives them some sort of identity. It feels like they're part of a culture. And ultimately, they've created this self of belonging and identity within the community. Obviously, there's mechanisms within crypto that where they've been able to do this, but a great example of a concept where they've created really an amazing community. So